Hello and welcome back to this next Kinetic training video. My name is Derek Larson. I work in support and training here at Kinetic Data. And in this video, we're going to build once again on our previous view and talk about something called events. Now, events are something that we use to make forms more dynamic for the customer. What we'd like to do with our example in this video is to, whenever a customer clicks on a site and makes a selection, we want to automatically fill in the contact name and email from the data store. So we need to do a couple of things for that, but before we get too far into that, I want to talk a little bit about events. We're only going to show a portion of what events can do, so I want to make sure and talk about the other things they can do. You can also read about these fairly well in the article or on Community. So there's really three different ways that people use events. The first one, when a page is either loaded or submitted, you can call an event to have something happen. Common things would be on load to set some fields to values, or on submit to double check a complex validation system. Maybe you need to have a certain number of days between events to happen. The second place where events can be used are with buttons. So we could have something on a selection of a custom button that could fire an event, and we could maybe have a person lookup get done there, or we could submit an asset number and find the information for that asset. And then the last one that we have for us here is, let me put this back where it is, what we're going to be doing, which is on the change of the value of this drop-down list, we are going to create an event that pulls information from our data store into these other two fields, which brings us to the kind of last part for an event. An event does two things. It has two different actions to it. So let's just start our event here. We'll come back to this. So for a field, we can see all we have is change. And we always want to give our event some kind of descriptive name. We'll just say set contact info. And here's where we can choose our action. So I'll show you first the one we're not going to do, which is custom. Custom is really used just to add your own custom code in here. You can have JavaScript code fire. This is oftentimes a place if you want that to happen on load. That's a very commonplace spot for JavaScript to get added. The other action that we have is set fields. And this is where you're going to take the return of a bridged resource, if you remember from our previous video, and we're going to map it into some fields on our form based upon a return value, okay? And so to do that, what we really need is a bridged resource. Oh, I'm very sorry, I forgot one of the most important fields here, which is a run if condition. There's oftentimes spots where you don't want that event to fire. For example, you don't want to do another lookup if there is already a return for an asset value on an asset value lookup, that kind of thing. If that's the case, you can create a run if condition, which is very much like all the other conditions we have, like for display and validation, and it will stop the event from firing. In our case, we want this to happen each time in case people make different choices for their site selection. So we'll leave that blank. Blank evaluates to true. So what I need to do is to add a bridged resource. For that, I don't want my previous one, status active. I want to create a new. And for events, to create a new bridge resource, we have to go back into the form. So I'm going to save what I have right here, right now, so that we've got it to come back to. And the place you can go to create bridge resources, just kind of on the fly, is up here at the top under form settings. So I can see that I've got my bridged resource here. I can see the ones that I have available, and I can add a new one. So we'll add a new bridged resource, and we'll give this the same name as our event, set contact info. Again, my terrible typing has a status. This time our model is going to be the same. I added one qualification here for us to use, and this is set contact info. And it doesn't have a parameter. Okay, well, I did that on purpose. So what I'd like to do, because I want to show you how to add your parameters in. So we're going to make one more jump. In this case, we're going to go over to models. So I've started our qualification for set contact info, but really all I've done is just copy the qualification for status active and paste it in here, mostly for set contact info. Now our contact info is every site has a unique ID, and the contact info is kind of based upon that site ID. So for our lookup, we're going to use site ID as our value. So I've put that in for the index of the site ID, but I've still left the value site ID equal to active, kind of the same that we had for status equal active, because I want to show you how we add a parameter. So we're going to click on the pencil over here to edit. We're going to get rid of most of the static value here. I'm going to leave the double quotes here because we're still feeding it eventually a text value, so we want to enclose it in double quotes. And then to add a parameter, click on the less than / greater than. I'm going to add a parameter, and it's just kind of a static value that our application knows to look for, and you can give this static value any name you want. Personally, I like to keep it the same as the value here. That makes it very convenient to look at things and know what should be there. So I'm going to say site ID. Make sure to enclose it in double quotes. And I don't think I need that extra hard return after that, just in case. And we'll save it. So now we're looking for a parameter. So now if I go back here to my form settings, find my bridged resource and do an edit on it, now I can see that I'm looking for a parameter. And so this really closes the loop on how you're doing that lookup. So I want to have it based upon the return value from this site drop-down list. Well, what's that? Well, I gave it a site ID, and now I gave it the ability for the model to look up a specific submission in that model based upon site ID. So what this is going to say, it's going to say, okay, well, yeah, I need to fill a site ID in here. Where do I get that from? And here's our variables drop-down. And if you remember in the previous video, we saved a site ID as the value for a site question. All right, we're almost there. So the last thing we need to do is go back to our site question, come here into our event, and finish off adding these pieces. So here's what we had still to do for our event. We need to select our bridged resource. So now we have set contact info. And now we need to figure out what fields we need to put information into. Well, it's these two guys over here, site contact name, site contact email. On this side, I'm going to have a list of all of the fields from my form. So here's site contact name. And just like we did in the drop-down list, now at the top of this, under my bridge resources, I'm going to have all of my attributes. So we'll put site contact name is equal, getting the value to site contact name, make sure and hit the plus. And then we'll just do site contact email is also going to get site contact email. And we'll add it there. Now we got both set. Make sure and save. We'll save the entire form. Now I have it open out here, so I just want to refresh. And now, when I select a site of Duluth, I should see me, and I believe I put my coworker Brent down for St. Paul, and I put myself down again for Minneapolis. So you can see that I'm dynamically updating this form based upon an event that uses a bridge resources that goes to a model that eventually ends up getting data from a data store. All right. Well, my apologies for the length on this video, but we had a lot of topics to kind of wrap up and put all together. Please take a look at the article on Community and any other information about events on Community to help you out with any of the stuff that I may have skipped over. I'm trying not to get this one to go too long. Thanks again, and I hope to see you in the next video.